Thank you for tuning in to watch our Invest Greater San Antonio Leadership Summit. You're about to watch the opening keynote, the Honorable Mayor of San Antonio, Gina Ortiz Jones. Don't forget to like and subscribe to watch more leadership insights from CAA. Enjoy.
Good morning. Right. This is an interesting site. I don't know if I've ever been to the Tobin and there's not like lots of food on the tables. I'm guessing you're thinking the same thing. Well, it's good to be with you this morning. Thank you, Abby, for so kindly inviting and introducing me. I also want to thank CAA for hosting the 4th edition of Invest San Antonio, and all of the innovative business and regional leaders who are joining us for this important conversation. And it was great to look at some of the panel members that really reflect, frankly, the top 3 things that I hear when I talk to business leaders, right? It's about power, it's about flights, and it's about people. So I really appreciate the focus of the panels. So we're here to discuss the most pressing topics facing our city today. And as your mayor, I'm honored to be here to work with all of you on what that looks like. It's really interesting. This morning, though, couldn't encapsulate, I think, kind of the moment in time that we're in and really the unique challenge for our city. I'm wearing this red button. Just this morning, I was at District 5 Senior Center and distributing some of those gift cards that we were thankfully able to distribute as a result of many of you being very generous in this room. As you know, unfortunately, today marks day 36 of the longest government shutdown in our country's history. And as a result of that, folks were uncertain about their ability to put food on the table. So let me again reiterate my thanks to many of you in the room that answered the call when I asked for resources and were able to help at least some of those seniors and some of the other recipients this week that will be able to put food on the table. So from the Senior Center to the Tobin Center. I grew up understanding that opportunity isn't guaranteed. Talent is universal, but opportunity is not, right? Proud first-generation American, grew up on the far west side. And I know that those opportunities are built by communities that invest in their people, built by leaders who make hard choices, ask tough questions, and built by neighbors who refuse to accept that our best days are behind us. So the reality is that we're facing is by 2040, Bexar County will add over 1.1 million people, a city larger than Austin, joining our region in just 15 years. And that growth is exciting, but growth doesn't equal success. It doesn't equal success, especially when we're facing budget shortfalls and an uncertain federal funding landscape. We literally cannot afford to do business as usual. So what does that mean? For me, again, it starts with asking the tough questions, make sure we are data informed. Do our people have what they need to be successful today and tomorrow? What barriers are standing in their way? And are we investing as effectively and efficiently as possible to meet those needs? My time in office so far, I've asked those tough questions and has really helped me refine my focus on 4 key priorities: expanding affordable housing, investing in smart, healthy kids, attracting good-paying jobs, and building the infrastructure our future demands. Each of these priorities is essential to reducing poverty and enhancing our long-term economic competitiveness for our people and our city. So to drive these priorities forward, we also need good data. And I found that this is somewhat of a challenge. We at the city are a little bit challenged in our ability to see ourselves. So I'm looking forward to working with the staff to ensure that we've got the data to ensure we are best meeting the needs and best addressing the inequities in our community to build the foundation that our city requires. So right now, too many San Antonio families are working harder than ever, but falling further behind. Parents are holding down multiple jobs, but still can't afford a home. There are roughly 95,000 households in Bexar County that lack affordable housing options. Children don't have the educational opportunities they need to succeed. About 70,000 families don't have access to affordable childcare, and they have to choose between exiting the workforce or relying on family, friends, neighbors, or unregulated sites to care for their young children. Wage growth in San Antonio is lagging. Actually, it's going in the wrong direction. If you look at the, and maybe it's out, but the graph that I looked at from the Greater San Antonio Greater SATX report, when they look at San Antonio and they benchmark us against 9 other of our peer cities, peer and aspiring cities, over the last 5 years, wage growth in our community, we were ranked 5, we are now 8. So I think it's really important when we talk about growth in our community and good paying jobs, that we focus in part on the latter, right? We've got to incentivize those companies, look at those opportunities that are going to do the most good for the most folks in our community. Over the past month, with the federal government shutdown and the economic outlook worsening, we have seen just how many of our neighbors live on the edge. That $150 gift card for me was really important because I also know the other data that is shaping our community, which is a $100 increase in the median rent in our community leads to a 9% increase in homelessness. And so when we're thinking about investing in San Antonio, we've got to invest in the solutions that really strengthen the economic core, to ensure that our trajectory in the long term is as strong as it must be. So with that, let me talk a little bit about each of those 4 priorities. Affordable housing. Look, nothing else matters if you don't have a roof over your head, right? So San Antonio is growing faster than almost anywhere else in the country. But growth without affordability isn't progress, it's displacement. So we're taking common sense action to ensure working families can afford to live here and not just wait. Actually, about a month ago, I brought together leaders from across the housing industry to identify where we can make a difference. I've also asked Councilman Munguia, who leads the planning committee, to take a hard and fast look at what are those solutions, no kidding, that we can do in the next take 90 days. What are those solutions for affordable housing options for groups that are traditionally left behind? Our veterans, our seniors, our folks, our neighbors with disabilities, and our LGBTQ youth, right? So those recommendations he'll bring forward here shortly, and we will apply some of those lessons learned as we also, again, look to our next affordable housing bond. Because here's the truth, right? Affordable housing isn't charity, it's economic development. And when families have stable, affordable housing, kids could do better in school, parents can save for the future, and our entire economy grows stronger. It's also, I think, foundational to what many of us in this room have said is key to San Antonio. We want to prevent schools from closing, right? We want to decrease traffic. We want to give young people a reason to come back to San Antonio or come to San Antonio. I know Sam Dawson, if he's here in the room, will echo that. Second priority, smart, healthy kids. This is fundamentally, of course, core to our long-term growth. I think it's also really important when we talk about ourselves as Military City USA, we understand the very unique responsibility that our community has to growing that talent. In a former seat, I saw that up close. The vast majority of people who serve in our military, 85% of them come from like 25 counties. Right? And Bexar County is one of them. Because the number one reason why somebody will serve in the military is if they know somebody who has served. And so if Bexar County, if we are not raising enough healthy kids, enough academically prepared kids, it is in fact a national security issue. But I would argue if you are not academically prepared or healthy enough to serve in the military, you might not be ready for this economy right here in San Antonio. So not only do we need to invest in smart, healthy kids for our unique role, but also I think when we also look at how do we take a very a stronger approach toward this when we look at what is happening at the levels of government ahead of us, right? I mean, how do we think about, and I'm glad you're talking about higher education here shortly. You've heard me often talk about my commitment to making sure that we're meeting the need for pre-K in our community. But when you have continued inequities, but then also you have things like attacks on funding for Hispanic serving institutions, it does require that the city take a stronger approach to ensure that that pipeline of talent is as strong as it can be, which is why I also stood up the Educational Opportunities Committee. This is not something that traditionally the city has taken a hard look at. Thankful for Secretary Castro's previous look when we stood up pre-K for SA, but I think we have a long road to haul given the challenges that we are facing today. Thirdly, good paying jobs. This is really important when we're thinking, and it frankly dovetails on the previous one. Good paying jobs. I remember having talking with some of the economic development folks and asking them, well, what's good paying to you? And the number was 50K. And I like dropped, my mouth dropped. I was like, 50K in the year of our Lord 2025. So look, good paying jobs. We've got to up that number. I've shared that both with the city staff as with others that want to raise that topic with me to ensure, again, that we are attracting the kind of jobs to our community that where people can sustain themselves and sustain their families. We welcome about 30 million visitors every year to our city, but we're also a hub for technology, healthcare, innovation, cybersecurity, and advanced manufacturing. And we're recruiting companies from all over the world that we will ensure pay competitive wages and offer real career pathways. Just last week, in fact, I was at Venture Dallas, for those of you that might be familiar with this. So it's where these venture capitalists, they get together. You either have the money or you have an idea that you want to get funded. But for me, I wanted to go there and when I go into other cities, I like to say, well, why can't we have this in San Antonio? And then come back, bring those ideas back, and then figure out how we can do that. Part of it was also to help those folks that are advising these companies, right, on, hey, when you're looking to expand or when you're looking to set up, make sure you think of San Antonio, right? We, on average, Austin is 15% more expensive to do business. San Antonio, we're 10% cheaper. So that's a 25% delta, and we're only 70 miles down here, 70 miles apart. So the quality of life, as we also know, is uncontested. I think it's also really important, though, that we need to connect our own residents to opportunities much faster. I'm thankful for the work that Ready to Work has done in placing 3,000 of those folks in approved jobs. But we really need to greatly increase its reach, its impact, and its focus. Between the economy and between AI, we need to be much more, I think, discerning in how we are building that pipeline. And this isn't about being, frankly, everything, all things to all folks. It's about ensuring San Antonio can compete. San Antonio can compete. My goal with that program remains 90% of folks in an approved job within 90 days. That means we're training people to lead. Since being in this seat, I've also hosted, again, looking at the foreign delegations and trying to be responsive to the environment that we're in. I've hosted 2 delegations from Taiwan as they're responding to some of the federal incentives to do business in the U.S. 2 of them, and I'm thankful many of the leaders in the room joined me there to show them not only do we have the power, we've got the talent, and certainly we've got the space, and you've got a committed leadership team to do that. Those delegations were largely focused on semiconductors, electrical vehicles, as well as drones. Finally, we're investing in infrastructure, starting with an urgent priority that can't wait, which is protecting our neighborhoods from flooding. In fact, tomorrow will be the public briefing on the report that talks about what happened in our community on June 13th, when we unfortunately lost too many of our neighbors to that. And at a recent town hall, a woman from Channing Street, 300 block of Channing, I won't forget it because she yelled it at several of us up there. But she wanted to draw my attention to the fact that she had been waiting decades to address the flooding on her street. So that following Sunday, actually, I took the time to go after, because it was right around the corner from my church, and I saw it for myself, and it's unacceptable. And so when we're thinking about investing in San Antonio, I think we have to make sure that people understand how we are prioritizing certainly things like our downtown development, but making sure we're addressing the things that are kind of a nuisance to them, but also potentially impacting their own property values, and making sure that we're being seen as responsive to their needs. We have 14 flood projects on the state's flood mitigation plan, as currently scoped for $111 million, again, which will be important as we look at the future infrastructure bond. But these aren't abstract projects, right? These are the things that when companies come and visit San Antonio, they want to make sure they've got good education. As I mentioned, make sure that flight didn't have too many connections. The quality of life is certainly tied to the quality of the infrastructure. I've personally visited actually each of these 14 sites, and have worked with the council and with the state legislature to make sure we're prioritizing these and certainly speaking with one voice. But flooding is just one of the infrastructure challenges. We're looking to expand public transit and ensuring every neighborhood has access to affordable high-speed internet. Public transit will be very important to revitalizing our downtown, as will affordable housing, and connecting the fastest growing parts of our community to the opportunities throughout our city. So we're building a very strong foundation for San Antonio where everyone is safe, connected, and able to thrive. Um, Lastly, in closing, here's what I know. San Antonio has everything that we need to succeed. We have the talent. We have hardworking people. We have rich culture. We have a spirit of resilience, and we have incredible growth ahead of us. Now, I think the call is to have the courage to challenge the assumptions about business as usual. Because again, the numbers show that if we don't, we'll get left behind, or we won't necessarily meet the trajectory that we are fully capable of doing. We can build a vibrant San Antonio where everyone can thrive, but only if we work together. And that's the San Antonio I am working to build. And that's the San Antonio I look forward to working alongside with you to build. So thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy the rest of this conference.